don't want this picture. Alright, self-view. There we go.
You could turn off your video if you want.
Good cost, and we had to apply it from every 5 years we would pave and raise, raise and pave, whatever you want to say. So, but that terminal held, a couple 100,000 BMWs a year, so a little more revenue. But we started going through a pursuit of a PIDP grant, which is a federal grant specifically for port terminals. During that, we engaged Aptum, which is a well-known engineering firm, and we came up with something we thought would alleviate the situation. It wouldn't totally fix it, but it would definitely help it. It involves underground additional drains, underground storage, excuse me, some tanks underground and network. What this does is it clears the floodwaters out and gets water off the terminal and back into the marsh a lot faster than it does naturally draining now. I'd also like to add that a lot of the existing drainage would be not only fixed but upgraded in this process. So as of this presentation, there was a PIDP award. As you may know, we were not selected. The good news is we did make 2 cuts. So we were in the final group, but we were not selected. So we are going back after another PIDP grant, which we'll talk about later. So in rough numbers, it's about a $5.5 million fix. Dock issue. So there's a lot of words up here. I'll just try to shorten it up here. So when I got here, no one could tell me the last time divers have been in the water here. So we spent the money, we sent divers down, we did an inspection. I would rate her at a C minus right now. There's no blinking red light saying, hey, we got to reduce the capacity, it's going to fall in the water. We're good, but it needs to be fixed. We have some cracked pilings, we have some deck beam problems. The cathodic protection program is completely gone under there. And so things that need to be taken care of. That's also about $5.5 million. Between those two big issues, what we picked for the PIDP, and which, given the short time frame of reapplication, we'll probably go with again if the board so chooses to do so. So container and heavy equipment, everybody's probably seen the Skyline and the container cranes. These are 1990 model cranes that were rehabbed for Fernandina. They serve a good purpose, but they're extremely out of date. The good news is, with our friends at FDOT, we are going to be refurbishing one of the container cranes this year in very short fashion, and we'll hear more about that later. We've talked about a phase 2 approach here where we would maybe upgrade the container handling machines. I have 2 that were made in 1991 that are not so reliable. And then we also have a mobile harbor crane, which it's very relevant to this discussion. It's currently down right now as we speak. We're diagnosing it now. So, the theme is that especially the cranes and the container handling ability, the equipment's just pretty worn out. So when I say secondary infrastructure repairs, these are things that we've just seen that have been neglected for years. Just to put it simply, lighting, warehouse doors, dock repairs, warehouse repairs. I will say though, and I want to give a shout out to the chairman here who held us to task on this. There were several glaring items that we did take care of, and we have a campaign to get a lot of this stuff fixed. So lighting is going to be a big deal for us. We really need to upgrade the lighting, and hopefully we'll hear more about that from FDOT. We do need some fresh paving. But then on a positive note, we did recently replace 3 fenders with an FDOT grant in coordination with OHPA. That was we were hampered by supply chain issues, but in the end, it was a really good project. And, I actually walked the dock today, and it was nice to see that we have all good condition fendering right now. So the electrical is a little bit of a mess. This is due to age and floodwaters mainly. We have some stuff that constantly kind of shorts out and breaks and needs to be fixed. We have some paving that needs to be done. And then CBP, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but it's hanging out there. It's a problem. You know, I guess I'll kind of pause there. As of right now, we do have a substantial amount of money that is right now, I'll just say safe in the state budget process, but we, we feel pretty good about it. So that would be a game changer to add to the project to really get that modern facility that we need, this picture here in the rendering. Um, Also, I'll introduce Quantain here. He's one of give us some lobbyists, lobbying help at the federal level. He has had a lot of productive discussions, not only representatives in DC, but really the inner workings of the agency, and we hope to have some fruits of that labor soon. So this is the kind of stuff, when I talk about small projects, these are things that are kind of here now, things that aren't massive $5.5 million programs like you saw earlier. So warehouse three roof with the massive rains yesterday, we actually had a ton of leaks in the warehouse. This is something that one way or another, we've got to get either a replacement or a repair. We had been looking at a coating technology that coats the existing coverage. Lifespan's a lot less than a full replacement. So the full replacement is about 220,000. This is about 150,000 for coating. Another small project is a crane rail. You probably heard of the Clyde crane. Relay removed that crane, scrapped it to get it out of the way, but the crane rail still runs on the dock. It's a safety hazard for our employees. We have to lay down steel plate to run over it. Needs to go. We do have a security grant that I believe is in the issue phase now, or we should get notice soon. That will address some deficiencies and then we'll automate some rail gates, which will be nice. So we can do that remotely with our friends at Allied. So also the security fencing, a lot of it's very old, starting to fall apart. We've got to really start a campaign to replace a lot of that. These are pictures of the security fencing. Again, it's intact, but you can see it's old, it's leaning. It's only a matter of time. And the pictures speak for themselves, especially the one on the right with with all the lights are out. And it's just a summary of kind of, what I presented at UpDot. I know I ran through that quick. I just didn't want to hold everything up. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
I think this highlights the importance of the July equipment evaluation. The top to bottom evaluation of all the equipment, the facilities, the services that's supposed to be done. And
now remind me, that's a full assessment of all OHPA assets on the terminal, correct?
Yeah.
So that would
include the physical property of,
including like pavement and everything.
Pavement.
Got it. Okay.
Roofs on warehouses.
Yep, I remember now.
So that's due in July.
Yep.
And we need to make sure that we're on top of that.
Well, the good thing about all these things you've seen, we're on top of some of these small intermediary kind of repairs that need to be done. So it should be a less rushed exercise this year.
Because problems don't go away. I mean, that
they get
small problems, they just get worse.
Absolutely.
The leaking roof in the warehouse didn't start out, where it is now. It started out as a small leak that was deferred and deferred and deferred, and now it's
I mean, everything here at some point in time started out as a small bit of neglect, right? And like I tell my guys all the time, like there are no bad guys here, right? We just need to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. McNair, for that
No problem.
presentation. It was very informative, and we will be following that to assist in any way.
Thank you.
We can. All right, for our second presentation, we have Mr. Kyle Kaufman from the FDOT. He's going to come and bring us some information. Thank you, Kyle, for being here tonight.
Thank you for
We've had quite a few, interactions in the last few months, but I guess we just kind of started the top, so. At a request, the department, engaged with HDR to initiate a study. Not so much as look at history, I think there's a lot of history as to how the warehouse house was. From our perspective, that will not be the important issue at the moment for us to solve, but rather, how do we put the warehouse back into service? So as part of that process, I tasked it to meet with OHPA, I believe they met with Commissioner Taylor, I believe they met with the relay team. FDOT intentionally kind of withdrew ourselves from the process, did not participate in any of the interviews, and tasked them with delivering essentially what is best for port operations and port safety. There's a lot in the document, and I'm free to distribute it. It's public record. I think OHPA has it in their possession as well. But what it got down to was the evaluation of east-south versus northwest. And then when they got into the east-west orientation, it was a question of, do you put it on the northern boundary of the fence line, or do you place it on the southern boundary?
If you want to move the thing.
Yeah, let me scroll about. Okay, let's get down to where they start doing. They did a deep dive into, I asked them to really do a deep dive into zoning with the city, permitting, those type of things to make sure their ultimate recommendations were buildable. So this is where we get into it. It's probably not a great thing, but they ran a, you can't really see it here because of the distortion, but they ran a swept path analysis that essentially showed the typical trucks coming out of the port, could they make the turn movement? And then they also analyzed could a fire truck make the turn movement to access the abutments of the warehouse. And their conclusion was in a north-south orientation, that's not possible. In the east-west, it would be. So they kind of gave y'all two different options on the east-west. The one along the southern fence line would bring the warehouse closest to the utility access point and minimize reconstruction costs. If you put it on the north one, you still have all of the same swept path. There's no issues there. However, you're going to have a higher cost of bringing utilities, fire suppression, and those type of things into the warehouse. So that was the results. They summarized it here in a chart, I believe, at the very bottom that kind of ranked the three options. Here we go. So their preferred option is option 3. Ultimately, this decision is something that will have to be overboard, but from a purely port operations and safety perspective and a minimization of cost to reconstruct, their advice is to use option 3 and place it in an east-west orientation along the southern. Any questions regarding the subject?
Any questions on that?
No, I was just glad that you all were willing to, put the resources to do a full analysis, and validate the location, just given the great swings of information that we were, having to choose between. It was really difficult to sort it out without analysis. So thank you.
And that's what we're here for. If y'all, find yourself involved in these issues and you need technical expertise related to the board, please let us know. I believe HDR on this one, they brought in several national level port people. I think the gentleman who led the study, when I debriefed with him, he was headed to Guam and Papua New Guinea to do port studies. So they truly have, international expertise.
And if I may, Kyle, again, thank you for what you guys did and really helping to put this together, use your resources. But yeah, that team from HDR, I mean, they had engineers, municipal planners, port experts. It really was a strong team to really help us mitigate this issue and resolve what's been an ongoing problem. So I'm grateful to you guys for expending those resources, and thank you.
Thank you. Chair, may I move on to some of the stuff Ted just talked on with that, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we met with OPA and the relay team and a bunch of FDOT planners, Seaport office locally and in Tallahassee several weeks ago. Ted presented the same presentation that you saw today. One important thing to point out is in the past, there's two primary programs through which OPA receives funding. The primary program is the FSTED program, which is $25 million a year. Secondary program is the SPY program, which statewide is a minimum of $35 million. In years past, you essentially had an unlimited number of applicants. Some ports turned in a handful, other ports would screen 15 projects. There was a lot of time and effort with the Department of Commerce and consultant resources in screening all those projects. So what they're gonna do moving forward is each year, you'll be allowed to submit 5 FSET applications, so 5 projects. And through the SPY program, you'll be able to submit 2. So when we started going through the needs, as we all know, for infrastructure here at Port Bernardino are pretty vast. When we get down to those lower levels, like Ted is talking for, do you have an $80,000 project to do a crane ring? Or a $60,000 project to do a concrete repair? Or even $150,000 to $400,000 to replace a roof or seal a roof? You need to be strategic and think through, is it worth burning an application for an $80,000 project? It's very easy to say yes to an $80,000 project, and then you get an award, but it's not anything substantial. So I looked at our contingency, we hold some reserve funding for project cost overruns, bid exceptions, those type of things. And it looks like we'll have a few $100,000 left over at the end of this year that will roll into next year. So I would like to propose, if the board is agreeable, to take some of these smaller projects, specifically warehouse 3, roof replacement and roof seal. I think the state's preference will be let's replace the roof. Let's put a roof on there. That'll be a 20-year roof. But I'm willing to hear out if y'all feel strongly about the ceiling. The crane rail removal, any needed concrete repairs, lighting and fencing. Those are all smaller projects. If y'all are willing to consider this, let's consider, instead of burning your valuable applications on those projects, let us fund those with contingency subject to relays ability to correct match. And then you can take your applications and use them for port flooding, big CDP, under deck, set up a pilot repair for cranes. I mean, it seems like they'll have a handling. So big picture stuff that's going to benefit the port for 10, 15, 20 years. That's probably the type of stuff I would suggest they don't want to use those applications.
Any questions? Okay.
Yeah, actually I do. Sorry, I was just thinking. What would the application process be for?
This is pretty informal. It's not like the formal FSET program where you fill out an application. So I think something as simple as, if y'all are agreeable to pursuing this, I would take an email from Rosanna. Ted, if you provide, Ted's providing me some rough estimates. He's got contractors. If y'all try to dial those numbers in a little bit, I'm not going to hold you exactly to them. I understand that may slightly change. So just an email kind of summarizing the project, rough funding amount. We'll start lining up the funding. I'll say this is all subject to the FDOT work program process, approval by leadership. But Seaport investments are generally pretty well supported. So I think if we start on this now, we're about to click into a new fiscal year here in a few months, and there's a year in turnover activities. You'd be likely tracking towards grant execution somewhere toward the first team.
Okay. And those would be 50-50 match?
Those would all be a 50-50 match. There are none that are through water projects.
That's all I had.
We're looking at fall, pull the trigger now, via fall funding.
That's my idea. If y'all want to try to summarize in the next week or 10 days, kind of a rough estimate of needs by project, send it to us. Let us start looking at funding, how we can line that up. We can't insert new projects into the work program until it opens, usually about the first or second week in July. A month or so for the work program process and approvals, draft grant agreements, board meetings. So pretty quickly it starts tracking into the late fall or later part of the year for execution.
Would you want to see one email, or would you want to see
I think
one application?
I don't want to overcomplicate it. It's, these aren't big projects. These are smaller port operation type projects, I would consider them. So no, I think just an email kind of summarizing the needs. I think everyone's pretty well aware of the needs based on the kind of the documentation that provided us with. And I think it's something we found about for years, like crane rail, those type of operations.
So looking at the slide that we just saw from Ted, the roof coating was 153,000. How much was a new roof? I think we did get an estimate, because that's why we were
2.25, if I remember correctly. I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah, I know that they want to
Right.
understanding that could be 350, it could be 250. So.
So it seems that repairing a roof is pretty critical.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've got one here for 276, and I think another one was like 258.
Okay. So are you looking for like a priority list from the board?
Yeah, I do think it would help if y'all would at least take all the needs and prioritize them, so as we start running through this list. If we start running out of money or money becomes tight for some reason, we can
Great
say, okay,
question.
let's check number 1, 2, and 3, maybe number 4 and 5, we have to come back to that.
That sounds like a good idea.
Ted, do we have I mean, I know we're not new in identifying this problem, but new in this process. Do we have a plan for, if we're talking about replacing the entire roof on warehouse 3, that effectively means warehouse 3 will be down for a period of time.
Yeah.
We have,
That's a good
So
question.
for-
So I hope the fabric warehouse will be reconstructed by then. That would give us some flex. But in the past, when I've replaced warehouse roofs, you can work with the contractor to do it in sort of sections.
Mhm.
So you take off maybe 10% replace, 10% replace. And so then you can kind of play the game of chess with cargo, kind of move it out and keep your socks on the floor. So if it does rain in the open part,
Mhm.
it doesn't run all through the floor. So that's probably what we would do.
right, just as long as, there is a plan, there is sufficient space.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I
That we are
do
thinking about that.
I do have proposals. It's smaller dollars, 16,000 for one and 20,000 for the other warehouse. Basically, a company will come in and because those roofs are in decent shape, they'll come in and what they'll do is they'll survey the entire roof. They'll pull out any panels that are bad. And then they actually replace all the fasteners on the roof and reseal all the joints, which I think would be a good investment for warehouses 1 and 2. And I think that sets us up for a solid 5-year kind of like nothing's gonna get soaking wet campaign there.
It's solid preventative maintenance.
Yep.
Yeah, it will save itself. All right, Mr. Taylor, you had it.
Nothing to add.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Kaufman, I want to thank you. Even during my tenure out there, you were always readily available. You assisted us in fantastic ways out there. So for you to take your time and come tonight, this board appreciates your.
Thank you, and I'm happy to come anytime if y'all want to set up a reoccurring when we come once a quarter or whatever, just let us know. Any technical assistance needs, I think we all want the success of over the Port Verde again, whatever we can do to help y'all.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right. Moving on, the approval of the minutes. Shall we,
Motion to approve April 8th and April 22nd, 2026.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Right, our, court attorney report.
Yes, sir. Well, I've been, we got been working on the MOU and now is revenue sharing agreement. I think I explained to all of the commissioners in an email what John Lucier had explained in terms of why are we going from an MOU to a revenue sharing agreement? Because in the MOU, if you remember, it did mention the definitive agreement that we would enter into later. And so Ted and John Lucier wanted to propose the final definitive agreement, or at least a draft of one for your consideration. And I know that Commissioner Hill responded back with some changes, but we haven't really had it long enough to, I mean, obviously it's on here for discussion, even action, if you're ready, but I know that Commissioner Hill has some changes. There's some, I have had a chance to review it. I would have some changes and, but we're here to discuss it.
Okay, what I would like to do is kind of bring that in with it a little bit further down.
Yeah, that's exactly, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not for me to say discussion. So we're here tonight to discuss that part. I've been working on that. The records review, emails going back and forth, Vice Chair Moore reviewed some financial records of the operator, but then that prompted me to, and I talked with John this year about that, start doing some research on the Florida Public Records Act and exemptions for trade secrets, proprietary information, so that I can present to you in the near future really what are the types of things that are exempt and confidential. Because from my point of view, with an operating agreement like this, which has the public records language in it, the operator is basically, and I don't mean this in any diminutive way or anything like that, but when Port hires an operator, the operator is hired to operate Port on behalf of OHPA. It's not a lease. That would be, there's the property, you're leasing it, it's what you want. So with that, there's public records, and most everything to me is public records. If you're doing business on behalf of Port under Florida law, they're public records. And I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, Ted. It's not new information. So I want to be able to make sure that John Lassier knows, the operator, how I'm viewing, and I asked him to do the same research, how I'm viewing what exemption, what's confidential, what's not, what's public record, and what's not. So everybody is very clear about what that is, and that is with regard to not the records in Rosanna's office, but operating records that are kept, on behalf of their operations for the port.
Yeah, I think that's, a good way to go. We make certain assumptions, we know what public records are, and we may be wrong. And we want to make sure from our end that we don't release records that, are trade secrets. And, from their end, they certainly don't want to release trade secrets. But, there are records that, probably in a normal business environment, they wouldn't feel the need to release. But it's because of the contract or the agreement that we operate under, they are required to.
Right, and I just want to make sure that we're on the same page, really, because it doesn't make any sense. We're working together as a team for commissioners to want to see records, and then Ted and his staff be unaware of whether these are able to be viewed. And I do want to make the distinction, that'll be part, and I'm going to write this up too, just so it'll be in our files as a formal legal opinion. I do not believe that, and again, I'll discuss that the court commissioners are not viewing public records, are not, when you're not asking under the Florida Public Records Law, you're asking under the contract provision. So what might be exempt and confidential under the Florida Public Records Act may not be exempt and confidential from your office or the duly authorized representative, which I agreed to talk with them about that too, in terms of how do we have commissioners view records? Do you authorize Pierre to go do that? Do you have individual commissioners do that? Because if there were, let's say, 5 commissioners in a week said, I want to view your records next week, you'd have to do it individually because of sunshine, etc. So that could be burdensome to them. So we're working on that. Legal reimbursements for my time. I sent 2 invoices for March and April to Ted and John for discussion. These are items that under the loan agreement indenture, these are my time spent on things that are, we think, under that agreement, because it's very broad. And so I sent it to them for discussion. And then at the next meeting, I need to have on the agenda, it will be, this is an easy one, Ted. The one-time $50,000, the 25% facility use fee, property insurance, that part of the operating agreement needs to be memorialized. But we've already talked about it a number of times. At first, if you remember, months ago, I sent a letter to Amy Polson and I said, it's $50,000 a year. And we went back and forth, and I understand how she's reading it, and it's a one-time $50,000. We've talked about that here, and so I just need to write that into, just say that's what we agree, and then you can run that to payment. That's all I have.
All right, like I said, we'll discuss the MOU a little bit further down in
I
the,
got excited, so sorry if you thought we were gonna do it.
that's, so with that being said, we'll move on to the, Board of County.
So the monthly treasurer's report is in the packet. So, the only revenues we received as well were the Parker admin and upgrade, revenue share, deposit, so, and then obviously the only items of, were such as commissioner salaries, support staff salaries, and then the ongoing $1,500 for its website redevelopment, so I'll hear more about that later. So, that's all after this month. The question, and then obviously on page 2 is the operating account the balances of the account, and more obviously big topic that discussed last year, the infrastructure fee, which is for 50,000. Yeah, very big month, 51. So we talked a little bit of going carried up to the year, and our $50,000 commitment to the city. And then obviously the facility fee, the 25%. Those fees go to the property insurance before they come to us. So we'll just keep track of that. So you can see those numbers. Or anybody have any questions?
Pierre, is the operator supposed to be sending us the facility use fees on a monthly basis?
No. And so we agree with that. This is part of what you're going to be more on. And I believe that there's also the ability to do that. The first clarification report agreement, but the facility use fees, the first piece. So obviously you have the $50,000 that we just discussed. But after that, all facility use fees go to pay for property insurance. So property insurance is OHPA responsibility, just like we pay liability insurance, stuff like that from our budget. But obviously the property insurance, we don't have it in our budget. And so the facility use fees go to respond to the property insurance. So the operators estimated property insurance for $400,000 for the year. Last time we looked at that, when we did the audit, we did ask them for a copy of their billing or a copy of the proof that the insurance payment, for all records and stuff. But that's, the insurance obviously, they higher, that, and 10 years ago, maybe 60 to 70,000. So it's gone up quite a bit. And part of that was the pinnacle. It also thought it's bills.
So they're holding those fees.
Well, they're not holding, see, they're the fees, instead of coming to us and then walk right through the tax rate back to them. Yeah, they send us the report on the state collected, and until those amounts get over an amount, they get the amount to cover the insurance, it's gonna go to cover the insurance. So that's why we put this report in here, so we can monitor. Obviously, remember right now, we're only getting 25% of the tonnage fee. So over the, I think this year it's around 50%, next year, and then it moves up to 20% over the next few years.
What about the infrastructure fee? Are they holding that, or are they sending that to us?
They're holding that, so I'll see that was per agreement again. More of a mutual agreement, but essentially last year, they suggested that they hold that and send us, and then on September 15th, they send us a check for the amount, so we can make the payment. The payment due obviously on October 1st to the 6th. So I know that we have a formally agreed with that process that we said was $1 million, but that was the process last year, and I continue to know we don't get that one. As I said, we will, send them an invoice on, so that we can make things all up.
You said the insurance, payment is in the first addendum to the operating agreement? It's not in the, it's not,
Farm insurance is in God at OHPA.
Section
Right.
4.
So it's always been farm, that is part of the operating agreement. Well, the first clarification agreement. You don't have the money to pay for it, so the operator pays for it. The first clarification said that they can't bill it exactly. So they can't keep track of it up. And the rule is, if we know what we can bill, that we can own it. It's, if we don't have the money to pay it, then that liability is covered by that, and we move forward to next. So the same way, if civil use fees don't allow for a lot of here, we don't owe them anything. We move on to next year, whatever the insurance bill is. You know, first till the use fee, and any excess above that. That's what the part of the case.
and that covers all of our equipment and buildings and property insurance? Do we validate that other ports pay property insurance, like public authorities pay property insurance, or do they self-insure? You haven't really looked at it?
So sure, that's fun, if you feel the happen, so it's still. But certainly, when it's involved, they sell it, when it gets paid out, or it's, we're gonna kind of, well, they're deductibles, we're gonna kind of pay them. Well, here, it's $500. You can hold up that, yeah, the challenge for a chief. $400, that is far, future, because, so the thing I'm here. And I'm sure cities, yeah, do say, oh, they're selling, but they're selling sure. Well, not depending on the partner, if you can hire one.
Any further questions? Nice. Thank you, Pierre. We'll move on to the port operator report. Mr. McNair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So welcome bounce back month for us. The KLB, was steady and the pulp was huge. We had a lot of big shipments of pulp come in. But hopefully it's a trend of things to come. You know, high fuel prices are not helping us, not helping anyone. But we're hopeful that this is a trend that will continue. Happy to answer any questions.
Do you see the KLB staying steady?
We do, and my friend Virginia here will expand on that. But yeah, I mean, we've gotten into a niche with those guys. You know, restarting anything, as you know, is hard. The personal's the hardest. It gets a little easier and a little easier and a little easier. But thankfully, we're still just competitive enough with containers to keep it rolling. We've got another ship in June. That should be a full reefer vessel, as you're familiar with.
Okay. Containers, steady.
Steady containers. I was out there on the port today. We've actually got 8 boats that are headed to Bermuda. Yeah. One is a 55 Valhalla, and I told Travis to be very careful. I looked up how much it cost. It's about 2.5. So
Yeah.
don't drop it, Travis.
Falls off the dock. Okay. Very good. All right, moving on to the facilities report, the repair, any updates?
Nothing that we haven't done prior. So everything's updated so far. We have worked on a little bit of our central lighting, trying to get it a little bit better, but no further updates other than we get stuff in the past. I mean, everything outside this perimeter, that's both commissioners will discuss with me. still up to date and looking good. So
Well, while you're up here, do you want to just speak to the mobile harbor crane? What's going on with this?
that list is long. So I think we discussed it in the last meeting about it overheating, replacing thermostat, replacing the motors. Right now, the main issue is the main generator that it works off of is down, completely down. Right now, we can't get our hands on one in Miami right now, so that's, get that in there, that's just to get it here, that's not all for being, Lee Eric's actually here to do as well. I have worked with a couple other firms right now, trying to get pricing on that, other people, but right now, that's one of the rebuild. Well, rebuild, yes, correct. So right now, the lower harbor land is down, like we made it up.
Yeah, and I'll just add, it's the original component from 2008, so old age, and then unfortunately, we don't have critical spares to this crane, which is a huge blind spot for us. It's, we got a lot of problems, but we gotta start tackling some of these, and so it was sort of a wake-up call for me that we really gotta not only work towards, getting some of these repairs done, but start working towards a critical spares campaign as well.
And to have it as a backup, everybody knows we just have a break down and you don't so that the parts set aside. What we did is we did like generator to try to wire it in place, the generator is all. There's different forces and lots of things not allowing that right. So that was, I won't say off and on at the time, but have that backup still business, but I mean right now it's dangerous for us.
Summer's all being worked with Train 9.
Right now, yes, correct.
And
I will tell you, the gantry is right now. Well, just place the cable, everything, all functionality from the cab down to the square bar, all is just right. The hard rain we've had over the past couple of days, Westminster electrical and contacts. I don't know what the boards are that was brought into us today, but those are 30 years old. So I mean, it's working. Maybe another situation that can't which is there, but yes, we are working something out.
And then the yachts, we're actually having to rent a third-party crane to come in at our own cost, which.
Very sure. And we actually took it out from water, and got it, the cradle, built it, center beam on summer job.
Never what you want, but we're gonna get it done. We're gonna sail that vessel and they're not gonna lose any time.
Yeah.
Like, that's the most important thing.
I know that's much appreciated.
Yeah.
To keep that vessel on schedule, whatever. We had to bring in outside cranes one time, it wasn't free. So we had to do it. Okay. I want to say one thing to you, Travis.
Yes, sir.
I was out there the other day. And fortunately, there was no switch on the rail dock. And those lights were on. That's the best sight that I've seen in a long time. For all of those lights to be working on that rail dock, not to have multiple out. It helps with security at night with the cameras being able to see and focus on that rail dock. So just good job to you and your crew out there, whoever was working on those lights. They were a signature of safety and security for that terminal, that miles out. So
Thank you.
thank you for that.
Good job.
All right, we'll move into the new business report, and now I'll let you introduce
Regine?
Yep.
Let's let you introduce yourself.
Thank you.
right.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunities to present a commercial update. My name is Virginia Hakala. I've been supporting Savage and Alroy for the past 2.5 years. And basically, I support them in their business development and commercial activities on board, off board, and also on the shop operation. So really from port to door, if I can say. In terms of new business, the focus remained on terminal core business, which is forest product. I think we're all familiar with. We call lumber, crop iron board, plywood, and hardboard. In parallel, the traditional focus directed towards small container line, monthly service, steel and aluminum products, super stack transloading and export opportunities. I do want to point out at this point, it's primarily agricultural and food grade products, so cement and military related opportunities and project cargo. As for our current customer base, the focus remains on growing volume with our existing customers, as well as looking at the opportunity to identify new opportunities within their supply chain. There are ongoing conversations with ocean carriers that are currently calling the port, but also other carriers that we're familiar with in the industry to see if there are potential synergies with them. Then there's continued effort to deepen the relationship with the nearby mill and support collaboration that improves the overall port activities. Just wanted to point out a few challenges here and there. I don't think it's going to be any surprises to anybody. Obviously, tariff remains on top of mind for everybody. Now we have the fuel surcharge or the estimated fuel surcharge, which we do experience and pushback from customers. The container pricing fluctuation during it's impacting as well our negotiation versus having any commodities coming in break bulk. So we did have a little bit of a shift there during Q1 and just the overall uncertainties of the current market condition. Do want to say each new opportunity is treated and assessed thoughtfully and based on its unique requirements. So again, thank you for having me today. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I can attest, she knows how to work that telephone because I happened to be out there with Travis one day and she was on that phone and she was all over.
She hustles.
I know you're doing your best and I tell you, the port can handle it. Those guys out there can handle it. I'm out there, I'm watching them. We got a good thing going here. We just got to stay on the ball. We can't slack. We got to stay at the top of it. Thank you for Mr. McNair and his group. Like I say, I'm out there. The guys are working and doing their best. So that's a good thing. Any comments? Any questions?
Yeah, you're recently at a trade fair. When I say recently, I'm going back several months.
I've been to the Tampa Steel Conference and we could also have a chance to attend the.
Well, we presented it in Break Bulk Americas.
Okay, yes, absolutely. Yeah, we cover events for sure.
Any business generation from those or inquiries?
No. Opportunities, events, and a lot of hands being shaped. I want to say my nickname is social butterfly, so definitely not a challenge for me. But we do create, it's a long sales cycle, if I can say so. Obviously, we have a big pipeline. It's just a matter of finding the right customer at the right time with the right cargo. So obviously, every single time we go out to an event, there's definitely us walking the floor and shaking as much hand as we can.
So thanks for coming and thank you for offering to come to the TPO meeting and just observe tomorrow. And thank you for the report that I can offer on the Port of Fernandina. I know the TPO is frequently offering resources to us in the flavor of grad students who are currently at UF or UNF and working on transportation logistics issues, looking for discrete problems to solve. And that's one of the things that TPO prides itself on, is that they solve real world problems. And so if you, in your day-to-day job, are thinking of, oh, well, this might be something a grad student might be interested in working on, let me know, because they are frequently asking whether we could employ some young minds to solve some real world problems.
Are we talking keyboard people or hard people?
Well, so there's a transportation logistics flagship program. And one of the projects was FDOT's traffic cameras at truck stops. So they do counts of how many spaces are available. So the truck drivers stop where there's a space for them to actually sleep. And some of those cameras were not counting correctly. So the statistics students partnered with the transportation logistics students. They worked with some AI and some algorithms and some existing FDOT cameras. And they were able to, with a very small budget, pretty much a zero budget, over the course of a few weeks, analyze data, like a massive amount of video camera data. And, I just dated myself. So digital footage and put that into some AI and spit out data about when the system is the most accurate and why. And I'm probably misstating the conclusion of the study, but basically rain, darkness, a lot of those factors that you might intuit as being the cause. They were able to pinpoint, specific time blocks of when the cameras were most accurate or not to come up with solutions to fix that problem. So that's just one example. If we have a security issue, if we have like a truck queuing issue,
We actually have something, I think at grad student, we have, our terminal operating system. We're in the midst of trying to upgrade it and make all these EDI connections, and we have some subject matter experts, but I could certainly, it makes my head spin. So I could certainly use some help on the tech side of that.
well, tomorrow, that will be a good introduction for me to make for you with the Smart North Florida folks. So,
And I met some of these people as well, the one meeting, I think it was through how we're,
yes,
or I was attending the meeting, so, more than happy to support you tomorrow.
great.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna be moving into old business. We have one, comment, on the C. Orlando, when we get there, I'll have you come up. But we're gonna be addressing the website redesign.
Chair, Mrs. Osborne sends her regrets. She was not feeling well today, so if it pleases the board, can we defer this item to the next meeting?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And she wanted me to remind the board that she will accept some simple fixes. She will not change the design of the new website. And so just let her know or let me know, and I will pass that on to her. Any corrections?
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, moving down to B. A status update on the fabric warehouse. That's
Let's say that earlier, she's completely, it's completely taken down. We have all sections put together, set aside right now. I do need to break those off just for safety's sake, but right now, I'm not going to sell anything, damage anything. But yes, she's down right now, and they're just waiting on. I know that I talked to Mr. Kyle Oaker, and he's looking to close, he's working on closing the permit right now, and next steps are moving forward in relocation.
very good. All right, any questions on that, concerns?
What's the approximate rebuild time?
Rebuild time.
Yeah, from, I mean, not counting the permitting, obviously, we've got to go through the permitting process, but
That's right on that motion.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back up pretty quick. It's all the stuff that happens before. So you gotta have permits, utilities. And then you gotta, obviously we have to pay the new base for this warehouse too.
Right.
So all that stuff's gonna take time. I mean, I don't know. I 4 months, I don't know. I mean, I'm just guessing.
let me rephrase that. How long did it take to build the last?
I wasn't here.
Yeah, ask him like what, like a situation like this, kind of a brownfield, like typically how long would that take to go through all the steps? We'll get back to you. Okay.
Chairman, we have the report from FDOT, and I think everyone's had time to review it. Are we going to give them direction on where to apply for a permit?
I think right now with what we've got on our plate, we can defer this to our next meeting.
Okay.
That way it will give anybody that hasn't had a chance to really look at it, if there's any questions, it'll give the public a chance to address their respective commission.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure everybody is in that happy place before we move forward.
And I tell you what we can do, we can try either through Coker or just through contacting subs ourselves, try to get a better time frame for you. If not, we'll try to get it in between now and then.
Okay.
I know Commissioner Moore asked for that.
Chair, I did want to add one additional thing, and I know everyone at the table in the room knows this, but just to add to that timeline, once whatever's decided by the board, I still have to present that to the TRC meeting at the city. So that timing, with their 2 meetings a month, that could push us a little bit or make up some time. But I just want to bring that everyone's attention that I do have to present it to the TRC as well.
Are they, regularly scheduled meetings?
They have 2 a month.
But are they regular
Yeah,
scheduled?
they-
Like,
you can actually look it up on the web. I can't remember the dates. They're at the same dates.
okay.
Question, Chair.
Yes.
Does the board want to vote on the location now?
Okay. I would like to do that under the next meeting.
Okay.
Like I said, that'll give anybody that has any questions. Because we know what happens when we don't go that extra step or that extra mile. Somebody, may have a question. We're asking Mr. Cole tonight. So we need to make sure that everybody has all their information, and then we will, pursue that. With the time that's gone past, I don't think 2 more weeks is going to do any harm.
Okay, I will put that in the next agenda.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have anything else? What you do there?
No,
That's all good there?
All good.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, let's move down to extended labor. Mr. Orlando, you wanted to address more?
Can I do it after they do the presentation? Cause I don't know all the, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Not sure what,
I don't know.
I don't know, you know, you guys are
Gonna be going on. I mean, this was a further discussion, so I
okay.
thought you had a comment.
Well, I did, yeah. I just didn't know if there was a presentation. Alright, Orlando Villa, 1411 South 14th Street, let me be for, owner, operator, all membership agents. I've been in the industry for almost 2 decades, and all over here. Probably will be MOU, and I don't have a whole lot of detail, obviously, other than what's been published. I just want to encourage both Relay and the OHPA to do business. About 12 years ago, about 12 years ago, we had a similar issue in Ken Morgan was around, and then much bigger auditorium and a lot more people in here very angry. And I got up and spoke and I said the same thing. Let business do business. So if there's an opportunity to keep this facility profitable, keep the OHPA in the black, or put the OHPA in the black, I encourage you to take it. This is more than just about Orlando getting business. I'm more than just an agent. I'm a business owner, I'm a stakeholder, and I want to encourage all of you to do what's right for not just today, but for when my kids, I don't know if they'll take over my business or not, but when my kids that are starting to graduate high school are gonna be out looking for work, they might have the option to come here and either be a keyboard person or a hard hat person. I got both.
or both.
I got both. So that's all else. I wanted to speak positively. I've had great interaction with all the port operators over the last 20 years, almost 20 years, from Kinder Morgan to Relay. Work hand in hand with Virginia quite often, pursuing new business and new opportunities. And Relay needs the port needs Relay, so I'm here to speak just as positive as possible and encourage y'all to do what's right. So I appreciate the time. And I'm also gonna offer myself as just a resource. If you have questions, if you need a perspective on somebody that's on the facility monthly, 2 or 3 times a month at minimum, if not more, actually boarding ships, actually getting on there, dealing with customs, dealing with the stevedores on the ground, dealing with Travis, call me. Y'all know me. I mean, every single one of you sitting at this table with a commissioner commissioners sign in front of you, know me. Pierre knows me, Tammy knows me, y'all. I just met Ted for the first time today, so I can't put it on him, but he knows. So I encourage you guys to reach out to me. I'm here. I don't come all the time because I'm busy and I'm a parent and a business owner involved in the community. So I make the time when I need to, and if you need me to come, I'll make the time to come. So thank you very much.
Before you go, please.
Oh,
I did mention this to you before the meeting, but in our redo of our website, the link to your business, I didn't even realize that that was originally on there, or if it was, but we removed all external links, I believe. But you mentioned before the meeting that Jacksport is a directory.
Yes, that's why it's on their website. I mean, their website's huge and extensive, right? So I'm sure you most of you have seen. They do have a business directory, and they actually publish a physical directory still, believe it or not. They publish a phone basically. And they use it as a revenue tool because they have us buy to either, order page, half page, 8 page, whatever. But they do have a port resource directory. So it's got everybody from port ministry to the chandlers, which is, providing basically food and supplies, to agents, to steel loan companies, to everyone. Obviously, Jack Sports operation is, we're talking apples and oranges from Columbia. But it's still there. So and it's really okay. I'm not like offended or slighted anyone like that, but there is an opportunity to, there might be an opportunity in the future to have a revenue generation by some in some sort of fashion, getting it put in the directory. Because everybody gets in that directory that's got a business without paying, but then you have the that's what
How do customers usually find you?
word of mouth, reputation, recommendation. Like I said, I've been in the business for almost 20 years. Everybody from probably Wilmington, Morehead City, all the way around to Brownville, Texas, and so on. And they just, that's how it comes. And that's how the business is.
Do people refer to the port as the Port of Fernandina?
Typically, yeah, or just Fernandina. And then I'll explain national terminals and give them the lowdown. And Virginia will attest to this, that every time somebody comes to me asking me to quote Jacksonville for cargo, for lay berths, for any opportunity that could be a fit for Fernandina, I insist on quoting Fernandina. Even if it's a $10 difference, I insist on quoting Fernandina just so that they at least see the name pop up. Recently had an opportunity, and I know this is not part of it, but it kind of is where the cement ship in Jacksonville discharging them needs to go clean the holes, and there's no place in Jacksonville for them to clean the holes because it's dirty business cleaning cement holes. I offered Fernandina, it's still in the pipeline, we're still working it out, because there's no place to go in Jacksonville to think about fish. So Fernandina could get a big old 600 something foot cement ship rolling in 3-4 of those, and then clean the holes, and there's support opportunities to put man lifts inside the holes, take them out, things like that. So there could be some opportunities to go through stevedoring hours involved, things like that. So I'm always looking. This is help. So I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Polino, he's a perfect representative. We think of the port as, and it's difficult to sometimes make that leap and that connection. You think of the port as, a series of financial transactions. What does the contract say? Who's supposed to pay what? But when you start looking at what the port actually provides beyond the immediacy of a revenue sharing agreement or an operating agreement, or who's paying facility use fees and is it going into the right account, and how many direct employees are at the port. There are a lot of employees in Fernandina Beach and Nassau County that are indirect employees that earn a living from supporting the people and the businesses and the ships that come in through here. They're not direct employee, but they depend on the port. Same thing with the revenue sharing. You know, we look at it as a dollars and cents things, and that's our job. But there are people behind that agreement that go way beyond just, you know, how much is the Ocean Highway Port Authority getting, you know, with this revenue agreement? You know, how much is Relay getting? Is it a fair split? You know, it's the employees that they bring in, you know, the money that they spend in the community, the houses that they buy or that they rent, that really draw what OHPA is supposed to be. We're supposed to be an economic engine for all of Nassau County. So we have to start realizing what an economic engine we are to just afford at this moment. You know, we always want to be bigger and better. You know, take this stuff out to the rest of the county. But you need to open our eyes sometimes, and it's not just, you know, the dollars in the paper. It's the people like that, Orlando, and people like him that derive their living. Once we all, you know,
You actually said that a lot better than I was going to. I hadn't been relating for 3 years later. But he's somebody who's really been involved, truly involved in the community, because again, when people talk about raising family, and being a wonderful testament of what the job's been. I mean, it's exactly what he's doing. He's got a wife who works in education. He's got kids in school, in high school, and graduating soon, 2 years, it's like mine. And so yeah, you're exactly right. And usually people are talking about jobs, the direct jobs, the indirect jobs, and even jobs will be coming with this new opportunity. It's people like Orlando's, many of Orlando's out there. It's with their family with the benefit. Yes.
Okay. With that being said, I want to touch on the MOU because in the last 3 days, I've seen MOUs, I've seen final draft, and this needs to stop. We need to come to some permanent final. This is what is being offered. I seen one the other day that tied the 20% for OHPA on doctors. And I'm like, where does this come from? It's my understanding that it would be 20% of the gross revenue. If that's not the case, I need to correct it tonight, because we have to have a definitive process in which this board is going to have to look at it and either vote for it or against it. And right now, I can tell you, it's confusing because we got another one this afternoon. I'm already here and I'm looking, and it's not something that I'm going to even finish looking at today. But I want to understand exactly where we're going. Now, I was told this week, well, we're not going to worry about an MOU. We're just going to go straight to a final contract. Who made that decision?
The operator and their attorney.
That's not good. Because we're working on an MOU and then all of a sudden that's cut off.
Everything in the MOU went into contract.
And then I get another piece of contract back today with a bunch of red lines to it. So I would like to discuss that. We need to figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. Is it agreeable? Is it not agreeable? It's a back and forth. And I know I can hear the urgency on your end. I've had meetings with your boss and with the customer, and to be honest with you, with all that going, it's very confusing. Who's doing what, who's going to get what, how it's going to happen. I don't know if y'all read into this, and I welcome your comments, because I see some minor head nodding. But for me to look at it and go, how can it tie to dockage on this one? And this one is completely missing, but there's additional stuff there. We need to come together. We need to push this together. We need to decide, okay, this is the final product. It will come before this board and you'll need to vote it up or down.
Well. Sure, would you be okay with us, Daniel, pulling up the red line version that you see beside?
It's that from Commissioner
Did you have any other lines?
Red Lines. I didn't present any red lines.
So did anyone else read from this? Okay, so can we pull up the red line?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I just got it at 4 o'clock.
With,
We need to, how else am I supposed to know what their opinion is in this? So yes, please.
I mean, this is the reason I said, you know.
It's not attached.
Discuss it.
It's not
You
attached.
haven't seen it. I've only seen a portion of it. So. What's the board's pleasure?
So last meeting, sorry. So the last meeting, this came up, we had two work, we had a version under Chairman, the operator, Tim, and they worked together on, and we had a version that, Commissioner Wall, it made it into the packets, I believe, right? Because I think that a few days before, when the packets been created, makes it difficult when the day of, when we get the red line version, because this is something that's, you know, things keep getting pushed down. This is one reason why, because last things come up and they say, oh, wait a minute, now we gotta push this off another, really get to the next meeting. And I have a concern with that. I told you, I mean, this is a business that's trying to come to our area, come to the footprint here. I'll even correct that. This isn't just a business trying to come to the footprint here. This is a business trying to. And it's a great opportunity, and it's going to bring jobs that we just spoke about. It's going to bring inclusive or extra revenue, much new revenue to Oklahoma. And I have to admit to on that for this work on getting here. So when having these discussions about, well, we thought you revenue sharing, whatever. But in business, there are some negotiations, right? And there's going to be some give and take. And we see that because when I saw Commissioner Buller's version, there was an 80-20 split in there. And Ted was steadfast on he was sticking to the 90-10. But again, you understand there's that give and take. And so here we are with a version that offers more to them. And my fear, if we start looking at other versions, they're all spend another couple of weeks and what we do red lines and new issues and new things, and we're going to continue to kick it down. And we can't do that. We gotta make a decision, and we need to move forward on this opportunity before we lose it.
You know, I agree with you to this point. We need to be decisive and definitive in what we do, but we already have one bad contract that we're under, okay? And apparently the due diligence wasn't done on that. Okay? We cannot afford another. And what sticks in my craw is when you're talking about revenue shared and you're talking about $1,000 per quarter, it's supposed to be our revenue share.
No.
Now that's what's in the.
That's not what,
That was.
that was inserted.
Hold on, I don't cut you off, but that's what's in there. That was my question yesterday. What is this? It says no less than $1,000 per work. Okay,
Vice Chairman inserted that language.
okay, that's fine. My point being, we're going back and forth, that's in there. Then it associates it to dockage. Where did that come from?
That was always part of it, from the very beginning. And
The one today don't have it in it.
what do you mean the one today?
The one that we got at 5 o'clock.
This is the one in the meeting. That's my.
That's what I'm telling you. she's wanting to bring something up that doesn't have that in it. And I'm saying, we can't have this. We need it to come together so that it's a complete agreement. We voted up or down. Right now, we're heading back into the same thing with the operators agreement. I'm telling you, it's gonna be a fiasco if we're not careful. We need to get it together. If we have to assign a person to meet with Ted, we will, but this needs to be put into a format where everybody's in agreement, we read over it, and we say yes or no. Right now, you can't make heads or tails of it.
We received, I think Tammy received this late last week. And then I got comments back from her during the business day. And so the frustration with me is that we get no feedback, so we provided no links that incorporated feedback from FDOT as to like what are standards in these agreements, and also just searching online because these agreements are public record. And so Tammy reviewed my red lines, goes back to the, we get no feedback on it. She got no feedback, and I said, oh.
From us?
Yeah. And I said, do we have any sense of what the feedback is on that? The response, MOU was y'all's idea, so we worked on that and well, which is fine.
Mhm.
And I think, you know, I do with contract negotiations all day long, and I think the positive here is that all the parties want to come to an agreement. We are learning through the process of what our non-negotiables are, and I think we can come to terms in this format. I think we can include what we need. And the key, from my view, is 1 or 5, is that this agreement does need to have all of those flow down provisions that will apply to the customer. And so that's why we need that detail of all the requirements that we don't currently have in our shared operating agreement to say we need minimum revenue. We need the access to records, we need insurance coverage, we need the full provisions, all of the control elements that we have been questioned by those out there that we don't need to explicitly call out, at least as this portion of the operations, right? So that helps us at least to this portion of the operations. We can undo the current operating agreement with this, but just for everything new, at least we're not carrying forward the sins of the fall, right?
And I refer to the operators agreement just as a cautionary that we don't get ourselves into that predicament again, because we know any future negotiation is probably not.
As for the $1,000, that was just as these things go, you know, we may sign an agreement, and I'm not saying this is the intention, but you know, there may be no action on the agreement for a year. Yet we're holding a birthday space for a year, or because we've committed to a contract. You know, that $1,000 is there as and that wasn't a dollar amount that was set in stone. That's just a dollar amount that I think that I'm the $1,000. That sounds reasonable, and that's why I put that in there. Just that it would be a consistent revenue, even if nothing happens with the contract. We'll, you know, we're proud of, you know, like not wishing bad on relative, you know, and if relative team goes out of business, there's that $1,000 that that is contractually obligated to be paid. As far as the gross dockage revenue, I didn't put that in there. I did put the 20% in. And I didn't put that as directly from gross dockage revenue. You know, it certainly could be from gross dockage revenue, but you know, however, you know, the AW agreement, which is what this is between us and the media.
I mean, the whole genesis of this was everybody kept harping on section 6.10 on operating agreement, right? And so it's like, hey, you know, there's been no transparency here. And when I started this effort 6 months ago, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to unveil ourselves to you, right? And so if you read the operator agreement, cargo handling and storage is already covered. That's in a binding agreement. Right? And so I said, listen, I don't even think this pertains to 6.10, but I'm not in the business of arguing with people. So let's do this the right way. Let's be transparent. I'll give you something I think we can both work with, and that's where we are. I would ask Chairman, would you like to hear from Relativity? They're here tonight. If you have any questions.
Have we been given any information on what or how much the revenue would be based on the current information that we have? I mean, here's a board that's sitting here, we don't know what our revenue would be.
Right, what the projected revenues would be.
We don't know.
Well, I know it. $189,000. So if you just do tariff dockage is 650 times 400 times 365 times 0.2. 189,800.
That's per year.
Yes.
Has
Subject,
anybody else heard that figure before now?
well,
I just need to,
I apologize.
you know, because there's questions of why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is the first time that I've heard that figure. Okay. And
Back when we were with the NBA top, there was an estimate.
again, I am the one that would not sign the NDA because it voided the trust that the public puts in its public servants. I will not do that. This is all governed by the people of this county. And I appreciate you bringing that figure. Now we've got something to work with. Now we can look at it. I would ask the court attorney that we get something. If you have to go to their attorney, whatever. We need a document that we can look at, we can read. I've seen 2 finals so far.
So it's not that nobody's playing games, this, and just like Commissioner Hall said, this is very common, back and forth with drafts. The issue that we have had here is when we have a meeting and then we say we're gonna come to the next meeting with the draft. We get the draft and it's nobody's fault. It's because we're human. We've got 2 weeks and we all have other schedules. So whether it's the operator and their attorney getting it to us, it was on Thursday. Last Thursday we got, and then it went out to all of you. And then Commissioner Hill, I took a look at it, Commissioner Hill took a look at it, started making changes, and then boom, we're at the meeting. So there's no opportunity to then take those red lines and those ideas. And so I would recommend tonight that those of you that have Commissioner Hill, we know, because she has red lines and asked Rosanna to bring it up, we need to hash this out. And here, because other than that, it's red line versions that go back and forth, and it makes most people's eyes glaze over, right? You want bullet points. We read contracts all day, Commissioner Hill and I, but the rest of you want bullet points. What percentage are we getting? You know, what's the projected revenue? Those kind of things, I understand. So, but that's what's causing the confusion on the red lines, but there's no other place for Commissioner Hill to then, and then I can't take on her red lines as mine, because they're not, they're hers.
Everything that I've seen from the attorney on your side has never had any fact or fiction or figure as far as what the revenue share would be for the court.
No, this is the first time some of you are hearing this, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're getting to the point where, and I will give Commissioner Taylor that credit. He's using my words against me. Okay, and I appreciate that. I take that as a compliment. We need to move on. It cannot continue to drag. You're looking for a definitive decision. I'm looking for what is the Port Authority going to gain from this? If it's lucrative, if it's a good deal for us, then I think this board will move forward with it. If not, I think there'll be a problem. But until we get that information, to sit here and say, we need to move forward with information we don't have, it's crazy.
Would you allow the prospect to come up and you can field any questions to them or they can speak to their business?
Any objection from the board?
I'm not sure what that has to do with an agreement that we're entering into with Relay. But
Well-
I mean, if you want them to speak, I think they're great presenters.
If it will clear some confusion,
If they are not signing this agreement, they're not a party to it. So.
me,
I offered it.
I think that if we have questions or concerns, we need to ask them. Don't sit here with a question or concern and wait till the middle of next week and then throw your hands in there and say, I got a question now, I don't wanna pursue it.
If I might, just from my observations, you know, having talked with all of you about this individually and otherwise. The issue is not the prospect of the new business, and you all know much more detail than I do about the new business. So the prospect of the new business is not the issue at all. What they're going to be doing, I have not heard from any of you commissioners that there's any issue with that. It's very exciting, you know, all of what we do. And I'm saying this for the benefit of those watching and also our guests. OPA owns the property. It's OPA's property. And the operator operates for it on behalf of OPA. This is not a lease, right? We disagree with Judge Aho. We have the property tax case on appeal because we disagree. But I think that the judge's order has affected at least a majority of them, from what I've heard. I can't say all five. In the sense, and we also have and been disgruntled with some provisions of the operating agreement, making this board feel like you don't have control or you don't have knowledge of things that are going out there, which you should, according to Judge Aho and Portal. So I think that what's happening here is that this is a negotiation between the operator and OPA, and the OPA commissioners here, because of bad decisions made in the past, bad agreements, are taking this opportunity, no matter how big or small the business opportunity is, to say, we're not making the same mistake again. We're not making another mistake and entering into an agreement where OPA has no access to anything, no knowledge, and we're just going to take whatever check the operator is sending to us. That's not what this relationship is supposed to be about. I don't care what the operating agreement says, because Judge Aho has ruled that that's not what this relationship is. So should we succeed on appeal? Great. But this board, at least these board members, are never going to stop talking about the operating agreement and how much it puts this board in a bad position. We cannot even afford, we may find a way, but we cannot afford, if we have a dispute and we can't get reimbursements on certain things and we have a dispute, we can't even send you a letter and say, we're going to sue you for breach of contract. I mean, we can, but we won't have the funds. That's public knowledge. And they're sick of it. And so this agreement is a great opportunity, but we need to do it the right way between OPA and the operator. And I'm just going to say as your attorney, the way that it's being done is not the right way. From what I'm seeing in the screen, we don't have enough detail when these pour down provisions that, I'm sorry, whatever, the provisions that say these are things that should be in the operating agreement that we want in this agreement. That is going to give us information, access, and all of that to this business opportunity. Because really, Relativity could just lease the birthing space from OPA. And then whatever, that isn't a possibility. That's an option.
Yeah, then you'd be limiting our access to serving customers before. I'm
I'm
not a
just-
litigator, I'm just telling you,
I'm not
that's what,
litigating either. I'm just
Right.
saying, I'm just coming out here to say, this is what I've been hearing for the last 30 days. And nobody else wants to say it, I'm gonna say it. Because as the attorney for them, it's my job to do what they would like, at least a majority, right? Everybody's not gonna agree. What you all want, I advocate for that. But then I sat through at least the end part of this property tax litigation. It's on appeal. We're in a bad place, you know, budgetarily. We're trying to get on our feet. And this is just a drop in the bucket for OPA in terms of getting on their feet. but the provisions of this MOU or agreement need to be done right.
Okay.
And nobody's accusing you of anything. This is no backdoor conversations. This is my statement only based on my conversations with all of you. And I think that we need at least 2 weeks to be able to have Commissioner Hill and I are going to be the only ones that are going to provide any kind of substantive legal type of language in there. And so I wouldn't expect, and you know, Vice Chair Moore, he may too, but there won't be a lot of back and forth. We just need to have a draft, but then the concepts we should talk about here. All right, let me go.
Well, for one, there's nothing in here about guaranteed job creation. I mean, and that came up tonight. Even with the red lines, that just wasn't something that I thought about including. But that should be included if you're talking about like, what is the benefit to the community and these opportunities? And already Relay has vacated their offices, which under the operating agreement, they are required to keep and maintain offices.
That's just a false accusation because like, just because I moved my staff down to the port, to be closer to the operation, that doesn't mean we vacated that. Like all these people that don't know what's going on, that makes it sound like I've fired a bunch of people, which I haven't.
It's good.
Right. I'm just saying, let's just be friendly with our terms of it.
So he would be that if we're doing this, that we're not somehow like reducing our overall like full-time equivalent roles, right? If those are the types of things that you typically ask to be preserved.
We're
right?
not.
You don't lose cargo handling workers.
We're not.
It's existing business.
This is why I said this needs to be given to you so you can read through it and understand what's being said, because you just got it today too. We want to make sure, unless your side and the board feels like we got a good deal, it'll never work. We got to feel like we're in this together. You get a good deal, we get a good deal. We can sign off and vote for this and move on down the road. But right now, I agree with what the court attorney said. That's not where we're at here, because there's things that I see that I haven't seen before. We got to make sure that this is a good deal for us and for you. Nobody's sitting here saying that we're going to block this. It's just that we need to have a full picture. And like I said, I have not heard that figure until this evening.
Right, but I would push back on that a little bit, in that we've been talking about this for a number of months. Relativity is gonna walk. I don't know if they're gonna walk tomorrow, or the next day, or 2 weeks, if that's enough, what? But we've been talking about this for a long time, so I appreciate your comments, but this has been in discussion for a very long time.
It's been in discussion between you and them. Not until the other day when they came and sat down with me, just down the hallway, did some of that stuff come to the front, where I had a good picture of what was going to be happening. They sat there and answered all my questions. Okay, had no problem. Okay, the question of the NDA coming. Okay, I'm the guy that held out. You and I sit here and look across from each other, and I said, no, I won't sign it.
No, and that's
The thing. We've got to have this information. We need to know how it's going to affect the Port Authority. If it's going to be a good deal, I think, I'm not speaking for these other commissioners, but I'm with you. If it's not, I'm not with you. But I gotta have that information. And this is why I say to the commission, we need to take this and we need to go over it with a fine tooth comb. Because if we miss up, we don't catch any the bad stuff, or we don't look for the good stuff, it's on us. There's nobody that can point fingers but us. Now, if you've got some comments, I'm gonna open the floor where you can speak. But this back and forth, you get something from the attorney, then we get something from our side. We gotta come together. That's a simple process, but it's not there.
I thought I was doing that by putting a version, this version took Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Hill's drafts and merged it into something we could live with, right? That we feel like is a good working document. That's why I put it in the meeting pack, or I asked for it to be put in the meeting. I can't put anything in the meeting.
And that's what the last meeting, probably to remember what, 7 weeks ago, that was my favorite process. I understand about talking process now, but that's my thing about this. They mentioned it, we're gonna take this, agreement, this agreement, we put something out, give it to Ted, they're gonna go through it and present something that they agree with, okay, we can. And again, I was excited to see that during the process, there was, I think that giving team where he said, okay, we're gonna be 20, and it got to this point. So we think we talk about how things should be better, how things need to get to approve, because everything's same thing over and over and over.
But is that not what we're seeing, that we're getting as far as information, when you got an attorney that says, hey, we were working off of the MOU, but you know what, now we're gonna give you a final draft. And this is where it's gonna end. And then you start looking through it and there's a problem. We can't just go with that. I mean, I'm looking at what you came with. It's not just a few items.
Well, I think that the expectation that we would vote on it tonight is probably what's frustrating me the most. And I don't think that you shouldn't feel disappointed. I think it should happen at the next meeting.
I'm just saying, how can you vote on something that it's not complete?
It should be full. When she hasn't even redlined it, it should be completed.
This is my point. How can we fulfill our obligations by doing our due diligence to make sure that the taxpayers and the citizens of this county are getting our 100% backing? And if we're in public and somebody asks us, what are you going to say? We need to be able to answer. We looked at it, we've done our due diligence, it's a good deal for the public. And right now, I could say, there are two ways that negotiations and negotiation. Either there's a fundamental disagreement with the path forward, and one side or both sides decide to go their separate ways, or you run out of time. This has been on our agenda off and on regularly for the last 6 12 months. We've worked through it properly. We are where we are. But my fear is that we are going to make a point where, because the clock is basically running, we relatively chooses to violate schedules to go somewhere else. There's a saying, don't let great begin with good. There are no perfect contracts, there are no perfect agreements. Whenever you negotiate or mediate negotiations, you can always tell and get to a negotiating point, because both sides are a little bit upset. If one side is overly happy and the other side is pissed off, then that's a bad thing. If it's the other way around, it's a bad agreement the other way around. Both sides are a little bit upset. They don't feel that they got everything that they needed, but they agreed to it anyway, then that's a good agreement. I feel that we are at, with the revenue sharing agreement as provided in the operations package, and I appreciate Commissioner Hiller's input on it. It is a step further to take into a perfect agreement, but I feel that unfortunately, where we're at is we've got a good agreement. We're trying to get to a great agreement, but we're in serious jeopardy of the clock running out on the negotiation. That will be very unfortunate.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chair, Might I just ask about, when you saw dockage fees, because it helps me in working behind the scenes. Do you have a question about revenue, the percentage revenue was on dockage fees? Yeah, I think it's gross dockage fees, right? Was there another revenue stream that you were, I wasn't sure that.
No, and when I looked at what I received this afternoon, that's been taken out. This is what I say, I saw that yesterday, and then today, so.
I mean, Commissioner Felt, I don't know why it was, we didn't have a conversation about dockage.
You go to revenue.
Right, so it's gross revenue paid or payable, is the way I changed it. So it's not like documented for a particular item, it's gross revenue paid or payable. And then to this 1,000 amount, I made a comment that that should be calculated as whatever the 20% of the total revenue is, so that, you know, like whatever their minimum rent is, or rent minimum usage fee, you should have corresponding minimums. Right, and if you're paid in advance, we should pay in advance, right? I also included that if the customer would remit payments to us directly. I don't think that should be a problem, that actually helps a lot of the issues. I also included no exclusive use language, that you can't amend the tariff or give them discounts to reduce their payments without a consent. That it won't interfere with other operations, tenants, generating nuisance, reps and warranties have to go down. Insurance minimums, in addition to what's required in the agreement, if you carry insurance for this particular operation, you can also customer law. No release of hazardous chemicals, all that's pretty standard. Events of default, preservation of revenue status, that we are a third-party beneficiary of your agreement, we have the right to receive a copy from the trust, that we can directly enforce the provisions of that agreement, that we can terminate if it's in the public interest to do so. And a bit more about flow down. And then concurrent with the agreement around currently, but I think that's it. I mean, I think that should be like groundbreaking. I mean, it's all pretty good. I think standard for government agreements. And any requirement that would typically be imposed by federal government and the state government, there's a clause in there that says that you would include that requirement, and that might include, you know, certifying that no beneficial owner of any of your customers or any of your named executive officers are not on the sanctions list. And so whenever you're a public contractor, and then if you're more public contractor, you have to make all these certifications about basically you're not a spy. You're not on the sanctions list. But we didn't include a lot of that in the operating agreement. We didn't publicly advertise the operating agreement. We didn't bid it out competitively. So we come up against that multiple times when we're trying to demonstrate that our operating agreement meets these, you know, federal and state requirements. Then we always have to sort of add it in whenever we do a grant or whenever we do a project that we add these terms in. So I think it's appropriate for us to add these terms in here because it's no different than, you know, any other agreement that we want to run to, that we might need to apply for grant funds. We might need to, you know, get assistance to fund components of this project. We want to make sure that this meets those requirements.
And so, again, this is crafted on purpose because cargo handling, cargo storage is covered and operated. Now, I will also add, all dockage remits to us as well. We all know how the money flows around, right? Which is why the partial goes to OHPA, because it's not entirely clear, and I'll admit, you know, what happens if someone lays up for a while, right? Because all dockage goes to us. Y'all get a piece on a per ton basis through the fees, through cargo handling. That's why the olive branch was, listen, the legal language in the contract is If you go either way, you could look at it, 6.10 is not clear, right? It's not. So this is the compromise, right? I started with the number, so see Commissioner Moore came back with the number, I met your number, right? That's that. But, I mean, with all due respect, Commissioner, I think you're glossing over a few things. You put a kill clause in it. That OPEC can step in and kill like a location by a large company that wants to come here and create jobs. I mean, I don't think anyone would sign up for it. But I don't want to get in the back and forth. I'm not a board member, so, again, if you'd like to hear from Relativity, they made a special trip here tonight, but understand if you don't.
I think, and Ted, which is for maybe it's for you, maybe it's for them, what is, if we don't do this, and I, because again, this has been an ongoing thing. We're not gonna have conflicts, we're not gonna have conflicts agreements, like Vice Chair Moore said. The process has been flawed, just like you see. But, you know, if we don't vote on this tonight, pass this tonight, it's on us because of just, again, it's all process that we need to do better. So I mean, that's for the next thing, you got 20 minutes. Who speaks about?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's good to see you all again, and really appreciate all the work that's gone into this to get us to this point, and you know, the time we all took it 4 weeks ago. You know, we're here for this, you know, we were to a point that's been made and not a party of the agreement. We're kind of in the middle here, and you know, we want to come home and do business. We've, you know, looked all up and down the Eastern Seaboard, and it's a great community, and it's a good place, you know, where people want to live. It's a good place where we think we can do business and works well with our operations. It's not the only place, and you know, we think this is a good program that's very compatible with kind of the opportunity that's here, and we want to work with you all. Every interaction we've had has been really positive, and we want to move forward here. But we post, you know, updates regularly about the rocket. We're coming up on first launch, and we're getting ready to ship actually out for testing here in the next week or two. So you know, we're coming up on this, and we're hiring people already for these positions. We can't tell them where they're going to live. So you know, the vessel is almost complete. It needs a home. We need to tell these people, hey, are you going to move to Florida? Are you going to move to South Carolina? Are you going to Georgia? Like, these are all questions we need to go and say to recruit. And we take talent really seriously. So we are kind of at the point where we see if this is a consistent back and forth, where we have very different drafts when we traded. And you know, the one we saw this evening was substantially different. And okay, not a party to it, but in the middle, we're trying to, you know, bring the sides together as well. And Ted made some really significant concessions. And I think, you know, this is a great compromise document that allows us to move forward and get certainty. And we're committed to being good partners for the foreseeable future. So, you know, as you know, you worked out, we'll kind of address the underlying issues. We want to be partners in that. You know, we're happy to continue this discussion, but we also, as a business, need some certainty for kind of where we're going to end up. So, you know, I think continuing to trade paper, we do a lot of deals. We can see that can kind of go on forever. So, you know, in the interest of certainty, we do need to know. And if the answer is no, I understand, no hard feelings, but you know, we would need to. And happy to answer any questions you have about the operations, kind of, you know, what our plans are, addressing concerns. You know, I think we had some good one-on-one conversations, but that's just, you know, back to where we are today.
How many jobs are you looking to bring in, when you're through the?
Yeah, so fully operational, you know, initially it's going to look like kind of the basic crew. So we do have a lower flight rate to start. So we initially at least 12, and then it's going to kind of jump up to 20, 30. We also have a lot of transient folks coming out from our headquarters at Cape Canaveral. So you'll have folks come up, you know, several weeks, do upgrades. This vessel is, you know, basically a floating launch pad. We're not going to fly from it, but when we land a rocket on a ship, it's a very advanced system. So you have a lot of engineers, a lot of, you know, other skills here. And you know, we start around 12, and that'll go up. And those aren't perfect numbers, but once we're here, we're committed, and that's one of the reasons why we're living here. It's where people want to live and, you know, make a home, have a family.
And that's really exciting. And those are the good paying jobs, seriously, so, well over 100,000 on the average base.
And just to allow anybody's fears about launching rockets or rock, rockets being going to war for one, we're not talking about bringing in the spent rocket boosters through the port. This is just a facility where the barge is not stored, but berthed and any necessary maintenance and as we talked about before, landing a rocket on the barge, it's not good for the barge.
It's not always good for the barge. It is built for it. It's a very tough vessel. No boosters are gonna come back here. For those of you who are familiar, you might have watched some SpaceX launches. So the Blue Origin also successfully doing it. So the rocket takes off and deploys the payload in space, and then most of the rocket comes back and lands on the barge. And then that'll all come back to Port Canaveral. Port Canaveral is very busy. We can't, the home port there. So we'll offload the rocket there to be repurposed and fall again, hopefully. And then that barge will come back up here. And this is where kind of everybody works on that operation. So all of our recovery folks, we're kind of involved in that operation. We do mix.
And how long is the typical refurbishment of barge of in between landings?
Hopefully it's designed to be really quick. So, a nominal landing, you land and it scorches it a little bit, but there's no damage, and you offload the rocket. When we're flying a lot more, maybe you just go right back out. Initially there will be more time between launches, so they'll come back, and we're going to learn a lot from the first few flights. So there are probably software upgrades, when we swapping out servers, adding some new hardware to the boat. So there will be a lot of work happening on it, especially at first. And as we get into it more, we'll be out at sea a lot more, because we have very ambitious goals for how people will fly. They'll just need a lot of time at sea for those folks. And that'll mean more ships. So there'll be like different groups go out in different ships. So there'll be more people here.
Does your plan to primarily use shore power when you're sitting in port?
That's right. Yeah.
So that will reduce the audio signature to
Yes. All to be very quiet. All very safe, clean, quiet. And I'm not a recovery engineer. I'm not a lawyer, so maybe I'm not the right person for this. But it'll be very quiet.
I feel like for this one. Okay. Are there any more questions for relativity? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're open book. I mean, we'd love to do business here. If we get that opportunity, we'll be back, whenever you watch listening sessions and community hearing concerns. We'd love to be your neighbors. So thank you for the time.
If you don't mean that's projects with that's really ways to you brought up was kind of the temple neighbor gathering. So the neighbors who go to our meetings, they have a better understanding kind of what you're doing, what's going on, at ease. It's one of the things that we try to take care of the neighborhood and the areas, and for you guys who are thinking about that, so
it's the best practice we found everywhere in the business. So at our factory, we need us to come in and look at a rock being manufactured. It's pretty cool. If any of you are ever in California, that's an open invitation. Down in Florida, it's a little bit harder on a spaceport space, and we take security very seriously. But here, we'll definitely do open houses, and we want to be super transparent. You'll see these monthly updates from us. We'd love to show the barge coming in here, and we definitely try to be transparent.
I think everybody is very excited about what we're doing, so I don't think we should take any of the red lines to this revenue sharing agreement as a negative to OPA's interest. We are all very highly motivated to act quickly. I think we were disappointed that we didn't get more time to see the document in advance and to be able to make it tonight. But in the long run, I think putting more terms into this agreement ensures that your long-term relationship with the Board of Guardian and with OHPA is preserved. Because the current operating agreement does cause a lot of friction for this board, on a regular basis, and so you don't really want that, promise you. And I think a good agreement should not be painful for both parties. I actually disagree with Commissioner Moore on that. That might apply to a litigation settlement maybe, or divorce. Might be painful for both parties, but it's been the table for a good contract that should tell the story, the best business story, right? Everything is going to be successful, and this is how it's gonna unwind when it is, because this relationship do have. And so being very clear about those expectations on paper is the secret to success. And I know that your agreement with Relay is a lot more words in it. Because then our agreement with National Tribunals.
Yeah.
So, yes,
So
to specificity.
sure, I understand there are a lot of problems with kind of the underlying operating agreement. I figure, just where we are today, we don't have the time, for this to be kind of the proxy to resolve those issues, which it sounds like, and I'm new here, but it sounds like this is kind of an ongoing issue. Using this as a vehicle to solve those, when the sides are very far apart, we look at that and our lawyers, are much smarter than me, look at that and say, hey, look, I don't know if this is gonna be able to be our number one, if that's kind of how this agreement is being used. So we were very encouraged, and I think the version that's in the minutes we voted on tonight seemed like a good compromise to us. And again, like I said, we're eager to work with you on once we're, one of your partners here, resolving these underlying issues, because it's in our best interest for kind of all the parties to get along and for this to be, a good relationship. But to do that up front, we're gonna run out of time. Like as soon as the vessel is done and being built, it needs to go somewhere. We really want it to come here, and I think this is a good, fair agreement where both sides made, significant concessions, and nobody's happy with it. But maybe I think that's the best.
Okay. Rosanna, is Rachel on the, Mike, he's right there.
Commissioner Cole, are you still on? Hello? Mhm.
Okay. Forward to tonight. A motion to approve the revenue sharing agreement as given the packet, the appropriate, applicable, so.
That's an option.
Okay. Or just that Commissioner Walker.
Well, here's my concern. We need to have a complete contract in front of us. Because when we leave this room, anything can happen. Somebody can say, well, you know what, I really don't like that. I wanna change it. We need to have a complete document with the facts and the figures brought before this board. Now, I don't know where John is with his side of it and what we need to incorporate to bring this together as a whole document. But we need to figure that out tonight.
So if I might just say that the John and the operator, the version that they gave us, that's where they're at. And they've had very little time to review the red lines. I'm hearing tonight, because we just verbalized, Commissioner Hill and Mr. McNair verbalized, it sounds like if those red lines were incorporated, some of that's like a no-go.
No, so that's, sorry, no. There are, anything in those red lines that would make this impossible for us to do that.
So with that, I can tell you that, and she told you what without reading every single word, the operator saying right here tonight, there's some they just are not going to agree to. So I think the option you have is to vote on what you have tonight, to have me take the red lines that Commissioner Hill, even though we know some of them are not agreeable, take those and put those into a final document that then, Mr. Lacer can redline, which will be probably some of the red lines from Commissioner Hill, and then put something and have this on the next agenda. But I don't know where that's going to take us. Was Commissioner?
Well, area. Bring two lines or by, with the cell phone, this is, there's no times to wait to the.
Sure. Yeah, I think we have contracts, for which require this MOU, so, our cost.
Yes, he's on the phone.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the revenue sharing agreement as contained in the meeting minutes.
In the packet, I mean, for one that's in the May 13th.
Yeah.
packet.
In the meeting back.
Second.
Do we have any discussion?
Sorry, this person comments with me on the restroom. When you're making a motion to vote on something, it's received zero feedback from a lawyer.
I think that's where we need to make a decision.
Station said today, or yesterday, we said that he expected us to vote at this meeting, and then he expected to vote in the next meeting.
I just said I can't predict the future, but I'm not good at predicting what this board does.
Okay, so, and we left that saying that. What, now we're gonna vote on it without legal advice?
No, when you stepped out, what did they, so is that what you're asking? What happened when you stepped out?
I don't understand why we're voting on something that no longer has a red line or commentary or maybe.
Just the questions asked, pretty much, is it tonight or is that, and that's what we got was, what's important to us, this is it. And
Oh, well, this feels a lot like when we voted on, they're not us, but the then board voted on the operating agreement that we complain about so much. We had like the harbor pilots come in, all of these wonderful, important people that we care about for employees of the board came out and said, you have to sign this tonight, the goose is cooked. And the board at the time signed the agreement against their attorney's advice. It would have just taken following the attorney's advice, and then they went against the attorney. And then everyone complains about that being our decision. So I just, do they want to do the same thing over again? Okay.
it's all about process, and again, we had a same conversation, in this board meeting, where this is what's gonna happen, and then here we are again, the same exact thing, multiple versions of what we're doing, and we have a business that's on the hook to make that decision. So the decision, again, this has been a conversation we've been having for a while.
It is, but you have to realize something, that a lot of the information that we now have just came over the last few weeks. Because until I sat down with relativity, and I sat down with, Mr. Nair's boss, a lot of this was just smoke. They cleared up a lot of things, and that's why I said, okay, we will have a complete document. We don't. I agree with Commissioner Deal. We better be very cautious here. Because once we sign this, we know it's in stone. It's not gonna be negotiated, it's not gonna be further looked at. We don't have a complete document. I do not understand why the push is to vote on a document that's incomplete.
Just caution to the board members that are very concerned about, it's a 2-week difference. Everyone has fully expressed support. That if you vote on this tonight, members of the public are learning about what this opportunity is. And you're voting on it now, rushing against, not having a legal advice. I don't think that that's going to look very big. So I know that we have professional representatives here, business representatives, we have lobbyists here. Everyone on this board wants this opportunity to move forward,
but voting on an agreement that hasn't had legal input, and I sort of feel like I'm defending myself because I'm handling more paper because I didn't need feedback to this document, but.
No,
And I-
there's been other feedback, but you just happen to identify the same problems that I had. Okay, so we've had conversations. And we need to make sure that this is a complete legal document, because we don't want to look back and say, it happened again. I'm telling you, we need to make sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed. I understand that you need to get this through, but understand the board responsibility to the county and to the taxpayers that we have to do our diligence. If we don't, they don't need us here.
Yes, sir. And, you know, I think our concern is that this isn't gonna be a two-week process to continue to trade paper, because the sites are very far apart. And that this, you know, agreement that is being voted on now is, it has gone through lots of legal review. And, you know, this is a product that started, with lawyers involved, this has to do all every step. I am not one, but, you know, to me, you know, from the number of times our lawyers have looked at it, it feels like there's a lot of, you know, legal input.
And I understand that from the outside looking in, it looks like we've had a lot of information for a long time. That is not the case.
Yes.
Okay, so we're trying to boil down a lot of information in a short period of time, that we come with a deal that's good for you, good for me, and good for Mr. McNair. Okay, we want everybody to be happy in this. Right now, I think a lot of people have a smiley face on, but underneath, they're really not happy. Okay, we need to make sure everybody understands what the responsibilities of each party is going to be. That way, it doesn't create a problem for anybody down there. I think that everybody here wants and applauds the new business, but we have a public duty to make sure that we do it the right way. And I think that's the bottom line. We need to make sure that the legal side is good, then the commissioners can do their job. Okay, we can put this into effect. I just wish we would have gotten the information a little bit sooner. And then you know what, the criticism might be justified, but when you get it in a short period of time, you know, you can criticize all you want, but we have to sit through this and make sure that we're getting what we should have. So, at the risk of, do you have any questions?
I do have a question, Chair. Does the board want to, schedule an emergency meeting?
The special meeting,
Yeah,
you mean after?
since we don't have to post a notice for an emergency meeting. And just one item, vote on this
We have
item.
to still post for this. I mean, even if it's an emergency, if we're getting together, we have some kind. It can be, you can have what we call a special meeting if you don't want to wait 2 weeks.
Right. Can we wait one more week?
I think the issue is in 1 week or 2 weeks, is, you know, how all party sides are, and to your point about responsibilities, Mr. Chairman. You know, I think that gets to the underlying question, which is, are we trying to solve all of the issues of the original operating agreement and use this as that vehicle? And that process is gonna take a very long time, just from our perspective. And you know, that's not something that is gonna happen in even a couple of months probably.
I'm gonna clarify something with you. On my part, that is clearly not the issue. We are talking about the labor issue only. The operators agreement is a different issue, and we will not mix the two. We're going to deal with the problems that we're talking about now, get these rectified, and get this assigned to you.
So we actually proposed a different model initially, which was that this would be a separate agreement entirely from an operating agreement, to set that aside so that we wouldn't have to deal with these issues. And what we received back was, no, this is gonna come up underneath the operating. And so because of that, in order to carve this out so that we don't repeat some of the issues with the current operating agreement here, that's why the language was included. And so it's not designed to fix everything with the whole relationship, that is what it is. But it's so that everything moving forward doesn't repeat those issues.
And I think that the issues, you know, with the they're being carved out in this agreement. Our point of disagreement with relay, and we need relay to operate it. So if they're not gonna agree to those changes, then, you know, again, we're in the middle. And so it's.
Challenges there, floating provision for two parties and then the third party for the fishery. That's why it's taking longer than 2 weeks. So I think it's unrealistic for any sophisticated business operator that you all are to expect this board to return their red line document in 2 business days and then to be able to post it on a public agenda, which takes 7 hours. And so this is the type of cadence of things that you will come to understand in Florida. You have to post an agenda 7 days in advance. And if that's an issue, it's good to know that, right? We didn't have the opportunity to post these changes to our agenda. And so for us to take action tonight on this item, which our attorney has not even reviewed, would be very irresponsible. And so I know that you're making a very hard case that this is do or die, but that is the message that I received less than 24 hours. Okay, so that's a bit of a change of the story as far as I'm concerned.
It has been reviewed. That's that. I just pulled up my reference. And so what I do, and that's my practice, is before I submit my red lines to Rosanna, I wait to see if I'm getting red lines from the other commissioners so that I can merge some documents. So the red lines that I have here do not go to the same types of things because I looked at it as my job to get through this, make sure that it was legal. But some of the things that Commissioner Hill is bringing up, it's not that I disagree with them. It's just from a policy standpoint, is that something that you want to do or you don't do? I mean, is it fair to say that's where we are? The percentage split, the fact that it's only a percentage on dockage fees, not all revenue that flows to the operator, just the dockage. And my changes are very minor in terms of, I reworded a few things, but
Has anyone seen those changes?
no, but they're
Mr. McGarry, you had looked at the complete document that came out of Sacramento.
I sent them Miriam's changes.
Yes, but I'm hearing a lot of conflicting things. So like, number one, this has been going back and forth between attorneys. That's point number one. Point number two is the attorney just stated that her red lines were very minor, right?
They are.
And then she merged them with Commissioner Hill. So again, we're getting in this washing machine of drafts and stuff. So
You haven't finished going through the red lines she has.
I have reviewed the red lines that she has, and then I have some of mine is just legalese kind of stuff. Commissioner Hill is taking, and I don't disagree, is taking provisions because this is an agreement that doesn't have, I mean, it has, I guess, an initial end date, but our agreement here, our revenue sharing agreement, tracks with as long as the service agreement is in place. So my understanding, we talked about 40 months initially, but if it becomes much longer, then we are in this as long as that service agreement goes on. So I'm not here to, I'm just your lawyer and I just give advice. And so what I heard from these commissioners that made the motion is that I appreciate the advice. My changes are not substantive to, how the revenue flows or anything. Mine's legalese that I could probably send, to John Lassier. But Commissioner Hill has some very valid points, and I've heard all of, we've talked about this individually and collectively. So if entering into this agreement with regard to the operating agreement, saying nothing about how excited we are that you would come here, your company would come here, is that if you sign this the way that it is, and you're just doing more of the same. And I think Commissioner Hill saw this as an opportunity to do something a little bit different and more in line with what we should do.
This isn't this great of a year, I think, isn't this, to Ted's point earlier, pieces of Mr. Moore's, pieces of Mr. Hill's from weeks ago, and then put into this agreement, based on those, and of course, relays, piece. So again, that's where, you know, this is what is put in front of us, is what he's willing to do based on these edits. So to come back, you know, I think it's to that point where we keep passing papers around, because then the next thing, so then we get another red line, and look at that.
So they didn't include, they get rid of the review in last draft. They didn't include that. They just took it out. And then they started over with a new document and acted like none of that happened. Right? So we were exchanging red lines and then they stopped accepting our changes and they came up with a new document. That's actually, so they proposed doing it, they sent it to us. We redlined it back. We were exchanging red lines on there. And they just stopped, penciled down on that, started a new document, didn't carry over everything that we had added to. So this is not new, it's not new that they haven't seen before, it's just that they took out previously. And just stopped, I mean, so it's not, we're not trying to get the goalposts, it's that you are changing the whole, like, subject.
It's converted MOU to an agreement. That's really what happened. So like, I think it's,
Over 2 weeks ago, or yes, 2 weeks ago, was the last term document, all that's gonna, right? So if that's frustrating to you, imagine how frustrating it is to the person who did all the work twice. Me, okay? But I'm happy to do it because I hear the comments from FDOT, I hear the comments from the board members, I get feedback, and so I'm trying to stay true to that history and include all that. We keep bringing up the meetings, but it has to go into the agreement.
I agree.
I mean,
I call the vote. Is Mr. Cole?
Commissioner
Yes.
Cole, are you ready to vote?
I am ready to vote.
Move, you state the motion, I move that, we accept the revenue sharing agreement as written in the, meeting packet.
Did you say? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
That's an aye from Commissioner Cole.
Thank you.
3-2. Mr. Cole was an aye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you all. I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you for coming again. All right, commission. I have Mr. Motion files. Think we should have listened to our legal counsel. I think that we should have learned a lesson from listening. And where we ended up with the operators agreement. I just hope this one doesn't go that way. So with that being said, is there any comments or questions? Before we move on. Yeah. All right, the next one will be, the pilot payment projection. Mr. McNair at the last meeting, we had some conversation about that, and sure we probably were briefed on that.
yeah,
With the projections that we're seeing versus actual, we see there's probably gonna be, not probably, but
most likely gonna be a
gonna
deficit.
see a deficit. And the question was, we are going to need to call on Relay to assist us in picking up that slack, whatever it may be. You may have a banner August, September.
May I pose so here's what I'm impressed with. It's either this board likely makes a vote to increase tariff fees, which I then have to go explain to everyone. I think a middle ground would be for this upcoming payment only, until we figure things out, we'll make up the shortfall. Right, and then, you know, it's my ship to run now. You know, our planning capabilities have gotten much better. You know, if the plan goes to fruition, the cargo flows would be a lot better, and we should be able to make this under natural circumstances. But, you know, it's one of those things where y'all came together, I think with Greg Hale or whoever it was, and came up with a plan. We've had a lot of headwinds last year with the tariffs, oil prices. But what I think is fair to y'all, and fair to us, is I'd rather pay that directly than have to go through. We'll have Virginia go through calling dozens of people and saying, hey, your next ship, your that fee's doubling. And then it's a small fee, but it's one of those things that annoys you. It's like when you go to a restaurant and I look at the receipt, I go, hey man, I just paid 3% credit card fee. Isn't that a cost to do business? It's the same thing. And so I think I would hope the board would agree to that.
I appreciate that suggestion, because with the shippers out there now facing fuel costs, there's word on the street out there that some of their costs has doubled. So
I'll give you another example. Virginia's working on a really exciting, we may still get it. She was on the phone today. She hung up. She said that big thing we were looking at, it's a bunch of big kind of project cargo and intermodal containers that need to come in. We said we just pushed it back 2 months. The fuel surcharge on the vessels. It's Oldendorf, the big like 48, the 60,000 deadweight vessel. They said we're doing this because the customer can't handle the fuel surcharge because fuel's gone up what 40%. So
okay, so I want to get this, I want to clarify this, that for this year only, that Relay will pick up the difference of any shortfall before you raise the tariff.
yeah, and then when would we, remind me year to year, what is it? September 30?
September 15th is when we.
September 15. Okay, so
The money, and then we remit on top. It's due on October 1st.
so why don't we do this? What do you think? You think we should try to make a definitive stance on that first or second meeting in August, or what way we're gonna go?
I think that will give you a chance to see what your cargo, the tonnage is doing, where we're at with the total amount in the account. And then we will have a definitive, this is where it's going to be.
Okay, I think that's fair.
We can move in with that. If you have a surplus of cargo and that money comes in all of a sudden, then we can, you know, give it back to you. That would be the fair thing to do.
Okay,
But we need to make sure that we cover the obligation with the secret finding. All right, I
Chair.
appreciate that.
Chair,
I'm sure the board does too. Yes,
can we have that in writing, please?
I'm sure he can send us something saying that he'll
Can
pick
you
up
draft?
that.
I can.
is an email sufficient?
No.
Because we're just burning hours with our.
It's up to you guys.
An email is fine. If you send it.
I mean, I can.
Just send it to her.
Email court to create a contract.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you want him to
Send
state
an
what,
email and copy, make sure you copy me and,
If you can do that way, it'll,
I just gotta keep it in my record.
exactly, it'll be part of the record. Mr. Chairman, I think it's also that, you know, we have a number of accounts where, you know, we haven't spent, and are not projected to spend over the course of the rest of the year. It certainly doesn't make up the difference that we're looking at with you. For the pilot pending, but you want to take it to the public on us to do all part to pull back the reins on and spend in those accounts so that we can, you know, talk to the public. That's how we'll do it with the help of and I think that's why the suggestion was in August we will take a hard look at it. If there's a possibility that we can assist on our end, we would do that, but we don't need to put the cart before the horse. Let's wait till we get there. Hopefully something will change to give us some relief in that. If not, then I'll look to you.
Okay, I think that's fair.
All right, moving on to, E with the records request. I don't think, you having any issues?
I'm not, you made very helpful, they gave me, exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, 10 times the information for the first time, I always generate submission questions. And I found out that those questions are not, they're not, big bad questions, there's a more explaining question, right, and how did you get it there? It's about what I thought it would be really. Thank you, UA, for on that whole problem.
Okay, moving on. Any questions or concerns on that? Tammy, did you have any questions before we move on beyond this?
No.
Okay. On crane number 9, the cable has already been installed. Okay, I understand that there's going to be a request for the difference in the operator versus what we have. Now, I know that there's been a motion and we voted to kind of isolate that money. But once you get us the work order and get us the information, it can come before the board and maybe we can go in and get that money because that is a lifeline. I said that when it was brought to us. I think our portion is 10,360. So I understand it's like 45 or so $1,000 in that account. But that means we're going for this board for justification, but I don't see any problem
Okay,
with that happening. But if you'll get us the required documentation, then we can move forward.
yeah, they're just a little slow on invoicing, but I think they invoice once a month, so I'm just waiting on it.
Timmy, what procedure, since that was a path resolution as far as sequestering the CLO fund, would we need to do a motion to defend bank convert over to sending out?
I mean, if we have, it's best, that's best practice. I don't,
Or amend the resolution.
you can amend, yeah, you could amend it if you're gonna change it, so, yeah, because if you just rescind it, it wipes away. But if you just want to make changes, should we put that on the next agenda, or is that too late?
No, because you don't have the invoice yet.
No, and it's a reimbursement.
Just
We're gonna pay the bill. It's just whether or
Like
not
the
they'll
new
reimburse us.
resolution number, it's just amending that whole resolution number.
But for the board to act, we're going to have that required documentation, and then we can make that.
Yeah, I may give you a call just to feel you out, because once we get a better light on the mobile harbor crane, maybe we pick, I don't wanna come in and raid your fund, but, you know, too big, we'll take it one thing at a time.
You gotta have that mobile harbor. That crane's gotta be put back in service. Okay, you know it, I know.
Oh, I know that, I mean, that, you know what it costs to bring in a mobile crane
Yeah, I bought one.
for one yacht.
So we're gonna work with you on that,
Okay,
but we need to make sure that crane is operational, because that's the only backup you have to have about it.
when I would just add, I mean, we're really busy, next meeting, we'll talk about the crane 10 refurbishment. But we've really got to get a sense of what it's gonna take to get that mobile harbor crane back to a fighting condition, you know, where it's not just all we're doing is diagnosing and fixing, it runs for a little while. You know, it's a 2008 crane, it's time.
Okay. All right, on the C-Hub and the PIDP, I take it that y'all gonna refile the grant.
Yeah, Commissioner Moore can add his comments, but we had our feedback call with MARAD, and I thought it went really well. It was eye-opening, to be honest. like, hey, what was good, what was bad. And, I'd say, you never celebrate losses, but, for the first time, me doing it, everybody doing it, the outcome, I mean, I'd rate us a B. Wasn't terrible. We made it to the final cut. It just wasn't quite there. I'll say a couple things about PIDP. So Aptum is going to continue to carry the weight on this. We, of course, are going to pay for it. We're going to adjust per the feedback we got. And then we also have some federal lobbying help as well. Fontaine, I don't know if you want to speak to your efforts, but we have help in DC because let's be honest, that's the way this world turns, especially on the federal level. If you go at it alone, good luck.
Commissioner Holman. So, as Ted mentioned, actually, this is a two-part process. First step is revising the application based on the feedback of the Maritime Administration. So I said the feedback centered around two real key points. Lack of quantifiable data to support the expense of the grant request. Something as simple as, the port flooded X many times over the last 5 years, which led to portions of the port being inaccessible, equated to this much loss in revenue with these repairs. That revenue loss will no longer occur. Very simple, easy to do. The other main point was lack of the application did not portray a lack of ability to execute on a project or projects of that size. So it's easily addressable. Ridgewood, the owner of Relay, has lots of experience with ports in Florida and country aviation projects, with major industrial and transportation logistics projects. So it's really just speaking to that and that experience that kind of solves that problem. So we take that information we got from the Maritime Administration, fix the application, if you will, and then it's an advocacy effort. So we've already started that. Last week, met with Rick Scott's staff, followed up with Congressman Aaron Bean's staff. Davis and team were doing a great job in terms of engaging the congressman. He's on board for this resubmittal. He's going to do whatever he can to help us. Next week on Tuesday, we have a meeting with the administrator of the Maritime Administration and the Chief Counsel to further advocate for the project and get feedback. In addition to the feedback we got from the grants team, we're going to get feedback from the top of the house. We will also meet with leadership of DOT outside of the Maritime Administration. We may meet some individuals in the executive office of the White House. We're going to feel that out. We're going to meet with Senator Meady and her staff and try to get her support for this as well. So that's started. It'll continue through the application drafting period, which is due June 1st, and then we'll keep up that advocacy all throughout until we have an answer. Happy to take any questions.
They don't give participation trophies, but I am moved by the fact that with the short time frame, with the lack of a concerted congressional effort, we got as far as we got. That indicates that by and large the package was good. It was deficient in a couple of areas, but they identified if there are open deficiencies. I think those are even correct. I'm not speaking for them, but I believe that they're just largely data points and making sure we highlight things the correct way to show our ability to do certain things.
I agree. And we're going to work with Aptum on the draft and ensure not only is it addressing the points that came from the readout, but also it's hitting kind of the political votes that this administration is looking for as well, which is key.
Very good, thank
I would say one more note, if you don't think lobbying makes a difference, you look at the projects that won Alaska, of the 32 projects, got 6 Alaska. So politics matter.
Sorry, representatives, we do not know the last. You know, it's the midterms is all essentially.
All right, thank you for sharing. Yeah.
I do have a question, Chair. So Aptum submitted an invoice. Does the board need to look at it and vote because the deadline is June 1st?
Did they submit an invoice or a proposal?
A proposal, I'm sorry, a proposal.
We have a continuing contract with them for multi-year contract. It was not project specific. So that contract is with OHPA.
That's why we use Aptum, because it was a single.
Exactly. So the proposal itself, are you thinking that you want to vote tonight on the proposal? And I think that's fine if they just.
If they need to vote on it, they need to vote on it tonight because the submission is.
No, we don't need a resolution or anything, and it's not, and if anybody's gonna make a motion tonight, any commissioner, please make the motion that you accept the proposal because we're the contracting party and with the expectation that the operator is paying their Aptum's fees.
I make a motion that, we accept the proposal from Action.
With the expectation that the operator is paying Aptum's fees.
Mr. Mayor, you good with that?
I am.
Got a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Did Mr. Cole, did you vote in?
Awesome.
I think he was mostly wanted to, on the revenue sharing.
One moment,
So
one moment. Commissioner Cole,
So
sorry.
what I would say is we're gonna have to really spin our wheels on this. The way that we have to do this is we have to have a final packet that I like, that Fontaine likes, that, you know, Aptum likes. We're gonna put it all together and then we're gonna hand it to y'all and hopefully you approve it. So, do you want, in this 2-week process, do you want somebody on the board to be my touch base? Or do y'all just trust me that I'm basically gonna redo the application just with these updates that Marad suggested?
Mr. Mayor, I think this board has confidence in you. You can handle that.
Okay.
You just get it to us when you need our approval and we will get that for you.
Okay, thank you.
I have Commissioner,
I think you're gonna be in the minutes.
I'll get it for him.
Yeah.
So, Commissioner Cole, there is a motion on the floor made by Vice Chair Moore to approve the Aptum proposal with the expectation that the operator is paying Aptum's fees. And so we haven't voted yet. Did you get that? That's the motion? And, okay, and so when the chair asks for the vote, you'll be ready.
Well, we took the vote.
What is your vote?
Oh, no, it carried.
Is it, okay, it's a unanimous
It's
vote.
unanimous vote. Okay.
That's all we have unless you. I understand, sir. Are you interested, just for your benefit? We are done with the action items and discussions on the agenda. We're going into the office manager reports and board commissioner reports. Do you want to stay tuned or? Pardon? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Have a wonderful evening. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, moving on.
So just one thing, FMIT, you guys, the board saw the balance due. They did a final audit for the 24-25 fund year, and there's a $14
Increase.
increase or delta. It's not on the budget. I need board direction to proceed to pay that $14.
Any objection from the board? Okay, we need,
Yeah.
we need,
Okay,
okay,
We have this late.
you have a consensus on the board.
I just didn't want to, cut a check without checking with the
We
board.
don't need a formal.
Okay.
Okay,
You have.
Thank you.
consensus of the board to take care.
thank you.
Okay, anything else on your report?
That's it. Thank you.
That's it. All right, for commissioners from Mr. Taylor, do you have anything?
Just a couple things in kind of reviewing the meeting, this evening and some of the points that we talked about. As mentioned, potential legal fees that we do not have, we pursue any type of action, the pilot payment and a shortfall there. In addition to when doing our budget, user salaries, with canceled memberships and we're with $8,000 in our budget, with zero in reserves. And so we need solutions, and that's really tonight. That was based on a solution. However we got there, it was based on a solution. So I would wish we good dialogue, and I appreciate kind of the back and forth. I think that what we need to improve upon is really that process, so we don't vote multiple times on one item. We kind of get to that point where it's a timeline, however we need to inform that process, but just make that process better. So, and I don't know if Vice Chair's been talking about this, but so the Trip Festival was 3 weeks removed. I know on Sunday I rode by it. It was full for the issue for our south side was using to park the cars, so I have enough reason to prepare. So excited to see that. Also, the leadership now saw class of 2025 I attended yesterday. So I'm a graduate of leadership now saw. I know Commissioner Bill is too. I think Dave's being will be they were missing by. Okay, so yeah, there's some of us. It was great. I got to speak to the class of graduation, and a few of them mentioned how they really enjoyed learning more about hospitality and reports. So I don't know if they were just fan of me, but it was great to be there. And then last night, Pretty Beach Main Street hosted their President Bigger Biennial Innovation Awards. And I had the pleasure of being here to see that. And one of the judges happened to be Tana Kosak. So one of the neighbors who we know comes here. I didn't know she was here tonight, just not, but just wanted to give her props for the work that she was doing there. And want to thank Glenn Vila from All American Ship Agents for coming out, and Brian Campbell from Congressman Aaron Reed's office for being here as well.
Okay, Mr. Ball.
Yes, FSTED is currently undergoing a review and change process to how FSTED grants are allocated to seaboards. Currently, there are 5 tiers of seaboard. Obviously, we're in the small tier, which has to do with how funds are allocated. They are evaluating doing away with that and going to almost a strict return on investment when you have to show profitability and what you're going to return from the grant that you get. There are no number of proposals on the table to be considered. One of them is remaining with the 5-tier model, which is the terms of they're operating with it. The second option is to go to a 2-tier model, which would be just large ports and small ports. And then the third option, last option, is to go to 3 tiers, which would be a large, medium, small. They've also adjusted or suggested, recommended adjusting the percentage allocations. With the large ports getting over 65%, and the small ports getting 5%, which would be a net decrease available to small port like the Port Fund. I certainly advocating discussed that. I'm advocating for the three-port model. And then also the change in allocation to increase the allocations to personnel. There's a vote tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. Very good. Commissioner Harris.
So tomorrow is the TPO board meeting and I will be in attendance. I have a really great report to make for the Portland again. In the TPO agenda packet, which you've all received a copy of, there is a chart that I'd like you to just take a look at because it does have an impact on Nassau County. It's agenda item 3, and it just shows the breakdown of funds, overall funds that are being allocated to Nassau County for fiscal years through 2031, 2032. So these are the funds that on a rolling basis we look forward 5 years, and we say, you know, how much funds relative to all the other counties are being allocated, and this is where there's frequently discussion in a sense on local levels and counties that some counties get short shrift. And the goal with this is not that we always get our 8% of the pie allocation. The goal is that we have a long range plan. And then in some years, we want to get more than 8%, some might be less. But right now, we're about 8% of the rooftops, 8% of the individuals. These are federal funds, and they're required to be allocated fairly. And so one way to validate it's fair is based on population. So we should be getting the overall, on average, 8%, and you're looking at 2-year going periods. Right now, we are behind, so we're low with funds. And so I've had discussions with Jeff Sheffield calls all the different board members and talks to them about how these decisions are made. And that should it just isn't good as that simple math. But when you look at like the key impact projects, what I've asked for to this is just when was the last time we were ahead? When was the last time we got more than our share? And then what's the sense of when we will be getting more than our share? So that we have a sense of like, yes, you know, right now you're getting less. But are we gonna have an impact of projects? We are the 10th fastest growing, so the 4th fastest in Florida, the 5th fastest. It's not a good stat to be the, you know, a high number. So you're fast growing now. And when you're behind in transportation, you have very disconnected families, and that's not a good thing. That's all.
Okay. Any further comments, questions, concerns?
Mr. Chairman, just a reminder, hurricane season beginning June 1st, our reminder of Miller Rabbit Shelter, Second Jacksonville's heavy weather plan. And definitely leave it all chief,
One quick thing, Douglas at Aptum said, hey, when are we gonna receive the signed proposal back? So I think chairman has to sign that, right?
Soon as she finishes her magic and prepares it, then I'll.
No, Aptum.
Oh,
Abden,
okay,
he can sign it.
yeah.
I will
Because
have it, I will have it signed by tomorrow.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna move fast and get it in the packet. All right, so quick question. What happens if for some reason we don't get that done in time to get in the packet? We obviously have to, the new grant submittal.
Meetings, so you have it.
Yeah, for that kind of stuff, yes.
Shit.
All right,
With that,
we finished.